The massive black ship drifted silently through the void of space, its hull reflecting no light except for the occasional spark from damaged systems. Fresh battle scars marked its surface like claw marks on ancient armor. Inside, the echo of boots on metal flooring broke the eerie silence as Commander Jack led his team through the secured bridge. "Status report," Jack called out, his voice steady despite the aftermath of combat around him. The bridge showed signs of the fierce firefight that had taken place just minutes ago. Dead pirates lay scattered across the deck, their strange armor still smoking from energy weapon hits. "Bridge is secure, Commander," reported Tom, the security officer. He kicked aside a dropped alien weapon, its strange design unlike anything they had seen before. No survivors among the pirates. They fought to the last one. The lighting flickered, casting strange shadows across the advanced control panels. First Officer Mike worked at the main console, his fingers dancing across the strange symbols as he tried to make sense of the ship's systems. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his voice tense with concern. Jack moved to the console, careful to step over a fallen ceiling panel. The display showed readings from deep within the ship's cargo holds. "Those energy signatures," he muttered, "they're not normal cargo." "No, sir, they're not," Mike agreed, bringing up more detailed scans. "Whatever's down there, it's old. Really old. And the power readings are off the charts." Anna, their tech specialist, joined them at the console. Her uniform was stained with hydraulic fluid from forcing open the bridge doors. "The ship's quantum drive is showing some weird fluctuations too," she reported. "It's like it's responding to whatever's in the cargo hold." The team had boarded the vessel after tracking it through 3 star systems. What had started as a routine pirate pursuit had turned into something far more complex. The ship itself was a mystery, ancient in design but modified with technology from at least 4 different civilizations. "Team 2, report," Jack commanded into his comm unit. Static crackled for a moment before a response came through. "Lower decks partially secured, sir," came the reply. "But we found something strange. There's a whole section of the ship that seems to be sealed off. Heavy security doors, like they were protecting something important." Jack looked at the massive view screen that dominated the bridge. Stars streaked past as the ship continued its programmed course. They needed to stop it soon, or they'd cross into disputed territory. "Anna, can you get control of the ship's systems?" he asked. She was already working on another console. "Working on it, sir. But the security is unlike anything I've seen. Multiple layers, some of them. They don't even look like computer code. More like organic patterns." A deep vibration suddenly ran through the ship, making everyone tense. Tom raised his weapon, scanning the bridge entrance. "What was that?" "Power surge from the cargo hold," Mike reported, his eyes fixed on the readings. "Sir, whatever's down there, it's becoming more active. And the quantum drive is responding to it." Jack made a quick decision. "Tom, take your team and secure a path to the cargo hold. Anna, keep working on these systems. We need control of this ship. Mike, I want everything you can find about what's in those holds." As his team moved to execute their orders, Jack studied the dead pirates. Their armor was high-tech, but their weapons were even more advanced. Pirates didn't usually have access to this level of technology. They had been protecting something on this ship, something important enough to die for. The vibration came again, stronger this time. Emergency lights began pulsing along the corridors leading to the lower decks. Something was waking up in the depths of the black ship, and Jack had a feeling they were running out of time to figure out what it was. He checked his own weapons charge. They had secured the bridge, but his instincts told him this was just the beginning. Whatever secrets this ancient vessel held, they were about to find out, ready or not. Anna wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked inside another access panel. The ship's internal temperature had been rising steadily for the past hour. Her handheld scanner beeped a warning, making her freeze in place. "Commander," she called into her comm unit, "we've got problems. I'm finding booby traps everywhere. These pirates really didn't want anyone poking around their systems. The scanner showed a complex web of energy lines running through the walls. One wrong move, and she could trigger any number of deadly security measures. She had already disabled 3 plasma charges hidden in other panels. How bad is it? Jack's voice crackled through the comm. Bad enough. They've rigged something into the ship's power grid. If we try to shut it down wrong, the whole deck could go up. She carefully pulled back from the panel, marking it with a warning sign for the rest of the team. In another part of the ship, Tom led his security team through the dimly lit corridors of the lower decks. Their boots made hollow sounds on the metal floor, and the air grew colder as they descended. His energy scanner kept picking up strange readings that made no sense. "Control, this is security team," he reported. "We're picking up some weird energy patterns down here. They're not matching anything in our database." Mike's voice came back over the comm. "Same here. The ship's sensors are going crazy. Whatever's causing it, it's coming from somewhere below you." The security team reached a massive doorway. Its surface was covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change when looked at directly. 2 dead pirates lay in front of it, their own weapons having apparently backfired on them. "Found something," Tom reported. "Looks like the pirates tried to breach a sealed door down here. Didn't work out well for them." The team's medic, Doc, knelt beside the bodies. "These burns, they're not from their weapons. It's like something reached out and—" He stopped, shaking his head. A low hum started vibrating through the deck plates. The symbols on the door began to glow with a faint blue light. "Pull back," Tom ordered. His team retreated just as a wave of energy pulsed from the door, leaving a coating of frost on everything it touched. Back on the bridge, Jack and Mike worked to decode the ship's logs. The screens showed countless data streams, most of them corrupted or in unknown languages. "Got something," Mike said suddenly. "Looks like a security feed from 3 days ago." The main screen flickered to life. It showed a group of pirates arguing with their leader. The video had no sound, but their body language showed fear. They pointed at something off-screen, and their leader drew a weapon on them. They were scared, Jack observed. Whatever they found on this ship, it terrified them. The ship shuddered again, stronger than before. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Anna, report," Jack called out. "Sir, these aren't just random traps," she responded, her voice tense. "They're all connected to something in the cargo hold. It's like they're protecting it, or containing it." The deck vibrated beneath their feet. Emergency barriers began slamming down throughout the ship, separating team members from each other. "Everyone, sound off," Jack ordered, checking his map as status reports came in. Tom's voice came through with static. "Security team cut off near the sealed door. That energy signature is getting stronger." "Engineering team here," Anna reported. "Sealed in near the main power core. The traps, they're starting to activate on their own." Mike looked up from his console, his face pale. "Sir, the quantum drive readings, they're not random fluctuations. The drive is powering up. Something's trying to take control of the ship." Jack gripped his weapon tighter. They were trapped inside an ancient vessel that was waking up, filled with unknown dangers and mysteries, and now they had to find a way to stop it before it was too late. The massive door in the lower decks pulsed again, its symbols glowing brighter. Whatever lay behind it was no longer content to remain hidden. The emergency lights cast red shadows through the smoke as Jack forced open the manual override to reach Tom's team. The metal door groaned as it slid apart, revealing the security team crouched in defensive positions. "Report," Jack ordered, scanning the frost-covered corridor. Tom pointed toward the sealed door with its glowing symbols. "Whatever's behind that door, it's getting stronger. We've lost contact with 2 other teams in this section." A deep boom echoed through the ship's hull, making everyone tense. The symbols pulsed brighter in response. "We need to get through that door," Jack decided. "Anna, what do you have for us?" Anna's voice came through their comms, broken by static. The ship's old records suggest there's a research lab behind that door. But sir, the readings I'm getting, this is way beyond normal science. The team moved forward cautiously. Doc pulled out an advanced scanner, its screen showing wild energy patterns. These readings are off the charts. It's like the air itself is charged with power. They reached the door, carefully stepping over the dead pirates. Up close, the symbols seemed to move on their own, flowing like liquid metal across the surface. I found something in the ship's database, Mike reported from the bridge. This section was sealed off 50 years ago. There's a warning about containment protocols, but most of the data is corrupted. Jack studied the door's control panel. Anna, can you hack it? Already working on it, she replied. But sir, these systems, they're partially organic. It's like the ship is alive somehow. The door suddenly shuddered. Frost crackled across its surface, then began to melt as the metal heated up. Warning sirens blared throughout the deck. Stand back, Jack ordered. The team retreated just as the massive door began to open on its own. Cold air rushed out, carrying the smell of ozone and something else, something alien. Their lights revealed a massive chamber beyond. The walls were lined with stasis pods, their surfaces clouded with age. In the center stood banks of strange equipment, still humming with power. This is a research lab, all right, Doc said, scanning the room. But look at those pods. They're not empty. Through the clouded surfaces, they could see shapes floating in preservation fluid. Some looked humanoid, others were completely alien. Mike, are you seeing this? Jack asked, activating his helmet camera. Clear feed, Mike confirmed. Sir, those machines in the center, they're connected to the ship's quantum drive somehow. Power readings are increasing. Tom's team secured the perimeter while Doc and Jack approached the central console. Strange holographic displays flickered to life around them, showing incomprehensible data streams. Anna, we need you down here, Jack called. This technology, it's like nothing we've seen before. On my way, she replied. I've managed to bypass some of the traps. But sir, be careful. The ship's defensive systems are acting strange. It's like they're responding to something. One of the stasis pods suddenly lit up. The shape inside moved. Movement, Tom shouted, raising his weapon. Pod 13 is active. The pod's surface cleared, revealing its occupant. The creature inside opened its eyes. All three of them. Get back, Jack ordered. But before anyone could move, every screen in the lab flared with blinding light. The ship's AI system activated, speaking in an ancient language that their translators couldn't process. An energy field sprang up, trapping half the team near the pods. The others found themselves pushed back toward the door. System overload. Mike's panicked voice came through. The quantum drive is powering up to full capacity. The creature in the pod pressed its hand against the glass, leaving a glowing handprint. All around them, more pods began to activate. They had found what the pirates were protecting. But now, they had to survive what they'd unleashed. The energy field crackled between the two groups, its blue light casting strange shadows across the lab. Jack pressed his hand against it, feeling the static charge through his glove. Tom, get your people back, he shouted as more stasis pods began activating. The security team retreated toward the entrance, weapons trained on the awakening creatures. Anna burst into the lab, her tools already in hand. She took one look at the situation and ran to the nearest console. The ship's systems are going crazy, she reported, fingers flying over the controls. These aren't just random activations. It's all part of some program. The main screen above them flickered to life, showing video logs from the ship's past. The images were crystal clear despite their age. They watched as scientists in unknown uniforms worked around the same lab they stood in now. Mike, are you seeing this? Jack asked through his comm. Getting it all, Mike replied from the bridge. Sir, I'm running facial recognition on those scientists. They're not from any known research organization. And look at the date stamp. This is from over 50 years ago. The video showed the scientists arguing, pointing at data screens. One scientist, clearly the leader, was shouting at the others while pointing at a stasis pod. I found more logs, Mike continued. Translating now. They were running experiments on quantum tunneling. But they found something else, something in deep space. The logs say they brought it aboard for study. The three-eyed creature in Pod 13 pressed harder against the glass. Cracks began to appear on the surface. That pod's failing, Tom warned, backing his team up further. Anna worked frantically at the console. These pods, they're all connected to the quantum drive. Whatever they were studying, it needs massive amounts of power to stay contained. The ship shuddered violently. Emergency lights flashed throughout the lab. Drive status critical, the ship's AI announced in a mechanical voice. Containment protocols failing. Emergency purge recommended. Anna, what happens if those pods fully activate? Jack asked, still trapped behind the energy field with half his team. She shook her head, eyes wide at the readings. According to these logs, the creatures in the pods, they're not just specimens. They're parts of something bigger. The scientists found some kind of ancient entity in space, where they couldn't contain it whole. They split it into pieces. The video log showed the final entry. The lead scientist faced the camera, blood running from his nose. "We failed," he said in a shaky voice. "It's still connected, even split apart. The pieces want to rejoin. If they do, God help us all." More pods began to crack. The creatures inside moved with increasing urgency, their forms shifting and stretching in impossible ways. "Sir," Mike's voice was panicked. "The quantum drive readings, it's not just powering up. These energy patterns, it's creating a tunnel through space." Doc's scanner beeped rapidly. "The creatures, their cellular structure is changing. It's like they're trying to phase through the pods." Jack made a quick decision. "Anna, can you override the containment system?" "Yes, but..." "Do it. Tom, get your team clear. We need to seal this whole section." The energy field suddenly dropped. Jack rushed to help Anna while the others covered their retreat. The three-eyed creature's pod finally cracked open, spilling preservation fluid across the floor. A long, dark limb reached out of the pod. "Now, Anna." She slammed her hand down on the console. Blast doors began dropping throughout the section. The team ran, the sound of shattering pods and inhuman cries following them. Behind them, the lab sealed itself, but through the small observation window, they could see the creatures merging together, their forms melting into each other like liquid metal. The entity was trying to become whole again, and the ship's quantum drive was helping it. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as the team raced back toward the bridge. The deck plates vibrated beneath their feet, the metal groaning like a living thing in pain. "Mike, status," Jack called through the comm as they ran. "The ship's AI is coming fully online," Mike responded, his voice tense. "But sir, something's wrong. It's not responding to any commands. The whole system is locked into some kind of automatic sequence." They reached a junction where three corridors met. Suddenly, all the lights went out, plunging them into darkness. Only their helmet lights provided illumination. "Everyone, stay close," Jack ordered. In the beam of his light, he could see their breaths forming clouds in the rapidly cooling air. Anna checked her tablet, its screen casting a blue glow on her worried face. The AI, it's not just awakening. It's changing. These code patterns, they're evolving on their own. A deep, resonating hum filled the ship. The walls began to pulse with a faint, sickly green light that seemed to flow like water through the metal. "Movement behind us," Tom shouted, spinning around with his weapon raised. In the darkness behind them, something scraped against metal. The ship's speakers crackled to life. Instead of the mechanical AI voice, they heard something else, a chorus of whispers in an ancient language that made their heads hurt. "Doc, what's happening to the ship?" Jack demanded. Doc's scanner was going haywire. The metal itself is changing at a molecular level. It's like the ship is becoming something else. They reached the elevator to the bridge level, but the doors were sealed. Anna rushed to the control panel, then jerked her hands back with a cry of pain. The metal, it's hot. And these symbols, they're appearing everywhere. She pointed at the door where strange glowing marks were etching themselves into the surface. Mike's voice came through filled with static. "Commander, you need to see this. The ship's external cameras. The hull is changing shape, and that thing from the lab, it's spreading through the maintenance tunnels." "Options?" Jack asked, looking at his team. "Emergency access shaft," Tom suggested, pointing to a narrow doorway. "It's manual. No power systems to be corrupted." They forced open the access door and began climbing. The metal rungs felt strange under their hands, almost like they were pulsing with a faint heartbeat. "The quantum drive is reaching critical levels," Mike reported. "Whatever that entity is, it's using the drive's power to transform the ship. At this rate, we have maybe 10 minutes before total system failure." Halfway up the shaft, they heard it, a sound like flowing liquid mixed with scraping metal, coming from below. "It's in the shaft," Doc warned. "Moving fast." "Move, move," Jack ordered. The team climbed faster, the sounds getting closer. They reached the bridge-level access door. Tom and Jack braced themselves to open it while the others covered the shaft below with their weapons. In the beam of their lights, they saw it, a flowing mass of liquid metal and twisted flesh, rising up the shaft like a tide of nightmares. Multiple eyes opened across its surface, all glowing with the same sickly green light that now pulsed through the ship's walls. The door finally opened, and they scrambled through, sealing it behind them. On the bridge, Mike was working frantically at the main console. "The AI's last firewall is failing," he reported. "Once it goes, that thing will have complete control of all ship systems." The bridge itself was changing. The metal of the walls flowed like wax, forming new and bizarre patterns. The main viewport showed the ship's hull transforming, sprouting grotesque new structures that reached into space like grasping tentacles. "Anna, can you shut down the quantum drive?" Jack asked. She shook her head. "Not from here. We'd need to get to engineering." "But sir," she pointed at the internal sensors. "Engineering is where most of that thing is concentrated now. It's like it's building something down there." The entity wanted more than just freedom. It was turning the entire ship into something new, something that had never existed before. And they were trapped inside with it. Jack stared at the tactical display, watching as more sections of the ship turned red, marking areas lost to the entity's control. The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations, while the walls around them continued to shift and change. "Time to quantum drive overload?" he asked. 7 minutes, Mike reported, wiping sweat from his forehead. "When it goes, it'll tear a hole in space big enough to swallow a planet." Anna looked up from her console. "Sir, I think I know what it's trying to do. These patterns in the ship's transformation, they're like a massive quantum antenna. It's not just trying to escape. It's calling something." A violent shudder ran through the ship. The metal floor beneath their feet began to ripple like water. Tom and his security team fired at a section of wall that tried to reach for them with metallic tentacles. "We need to get to engineering," Jack decided. "It's the only way to stop this." "That's suicide," Doc protested, showing them his scanner. "The entity has completely overtaken the lower decks. The whole engineering section is. It's not even recognizable anymore." The main screen showed external views of the ship. The once sleek black hull had become a twisted mass of organic metal, growing and changing like a living creature. Strange structures reached out into space, pulsing with that same sickly green energy. "Wait," Anna said suddenly. "The maintenance tubes. They run through the radiation shielding. The entity can't change those without compromising the quantum drive." "How wide are those tubes?" Jack asked. "Barely wide enough for one person," she replied. "And we have to cross through sections exposed to drive radiation." Another violent tremor rocked the ship. Part of the ceiling tore open, revealing writhing metal tentacles that tried to grab the crew. Tom's team opened fire, their energy weapons leaving glowing wounds in the transformed metal. "We don't have a choice," Jack said. "Anna, you know the drive systems. You're with me. Tom, take the others and get to the escape pods. If we're not back in 6 minutes, launch." "Sir," Tom started to protest. "That's an order. If this thing gets free, the whole sector could be at risk. We have to stop it here." The team quickly gathered what equipment they could carry. Anna downloaded the ship's schematics to her tablet, marking the path through the maintenance tubes. "The radiation suits won't last long in there," she warned. "We'll have 3 minutes at most." Doc handed them medical injectors, anti-radiation meds. "They'll give you an extra minute, maybe 2. After that." They didn't need him to finish the sentence. Jack checked his weapon charge and nodded to Tom. "Get them out. If this goes bad, make sure Command knows what happened here." The bridge door was almost completely transformed now, looking more like a living membrane than metal. They cut through a section that was still normal, accessing the maintenance shaft entrance. 4 minutes to drive overload, Mike reported as he evacuated with the others. "The entity's growth is accelerating. Whatever it's calling, something's answering." Jack and Anna sealed themselves into radiation suits and climbed into the narrow tube. The metal here was still normal, protected by layers of shielding. They could hear the entity trying to break through, making the tubes ring with impacts. "Stay close," Jack ordered. "We're going to have to move fast." They began crawling through the claustrophobic space, their helmet lights showing the way. Behind them, they could hear the sound of the entity's transformation getting closer. Ahead lay engineering, completely overtaken by the creature. It would be a race against time, radiation, and a horror from deep space. They had one chance to reach the quantum drive controls. If they failed, the transformed ship would tear open space itself, letting in whatever cosmic horror the entity was calling. Their suit radiation meters began to click. The maintenance tube grew hotter as Jack and Anna approached engineering. Their radiation meters clicked faster, warning lights flashing inside their helmets. They could feel the quantum drive's vibrations through the metal walls. 3 minutes left, Anna gasped, checking her tablet. "The drive chamber is just ahead, but the readings are off the charts." They reached a viewing port and looked down into what had once been engineering. The massive room had become something impossible, a cathedral of twisted metal and pulsing flesh. The quantum drive at its center glowed with blinding energy, surrounded by writhing tentacles of transformed ship matter. "There," Jack pointed. "Emergency control station. If we can reach it." The maintenance tube suddenly buckled. Behind them, the entity finally broke through the shielding. A wave of living metal surged toward them. "Move," Jack shouted. They kicked open the emergency hatch and dropped into engineering. The air itself felt wrong, thick with energy and alien presence. They landed on what used to be the upper catwalk, now a twisted sculpture of metal and biotechnology. The entity was everywhere, its countless eyes watching them from the walls. The ship's speakers still echoed with that maddening chorus of whispers. 2 minutes. Anna called out, fighting to keep her balance as the catwalk shifted beneath them. The quantum tunnel is starting to form. Through the viewing windows, they could see space itself beginning to tear. A massive green vortex was forming in front of the ship, and something was moving in its depths. They ran for the control station, jumping over gaps where the catwalk had transformed. Their radiation suits were failing, warnings flashing urgently in their helmets. A metallic tentacle whipped out, wrapping around Anna's leg. She screamed as it tried to pull her away. Jack fired his weapon, severing the tentacle. Its wounds leaked that same sickly green energy. "Jack!" Anna pointed up. Above the quantum drive, a massive shape was forming. The entity was pulling itself together, taking on a final form. Its body was a nightmare of metal and flesh, crowned with dozens of eyes. They reached the control station. Anna plugged her tablet into the system while Jack defended them, firing at any tentacles that came too close. "The override isn't working," Anna shouted. "It's locked us out completely." 1 minute to quantum tunnel completion, the ship's AI announced, its voice now a horrific blend of machine and organic sounds. Jack looked at the quantum drive, then at his weapon. "The coolant tanks, if we rupture them." Anna's eyes widened. "The drive would overload instantly. But sir, at this range. Better than letting that thing call its friends." Jack aimed his weapon at the massive coolant tanks. "Get to the escape pods." "No time," Anna said firmly, pulling out her own weapon. "We do this together." The entity roared, a sound that shook the entire ship. Through the windows, they could see the quantum tunnel growing larger. Dark shapes moved within it, trying to break through. "On my mark," Jack said. Their weapons hummed as they charged to maximum power. The radiation warnings in their helmets reached critical levels. The entity lunged for them, its massive form descending from above. The quantum tunnel began to stabilize, the void beyond it filled with unknowable horrors. Now, their weapons fired together, the combined energy beams striking the coolant tanks. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the world turned white. The quantum drive detonated, its energy consumed in fire rather than being released into space. The entity screamed as its carefully constructed gateway collapsed. In the escape pods, Tom and the others watched as the back half of the black ship exploded. The entity's transformation began to reverse, the twisted metal returning to normal as the hostile presence was burned away. They never found Jack or Anna's bodies, but in the end, they had succeeded. The entity was destroyed, its gateway closed, the sector saved. The black ship, or what was left of it, drifted silently in space once more. Its secrets would remain buried in the ashes of engineering and in the memories of those who survived to tell the tale.